So there I was, playing Skull and Bones, having a good time. And then I was like, you know what? I want to play Assassin's Creed Black Flag. And then as I was starting up Assassin's Creed Black Flag, I remembered, oh yeah, you start this game as a Templar. And then they got me thinking about Assassin's Creed Rogue because it was a Templar game, which is basically just frozen Black Flag. But I thought, maybe they could do this again, but better. And that sparked the idea for this video because honestly, I would love them to explore the idea of a Templar game again, but give it the full AAA job. Give it everything. Because Rogue, whether you like it or hate it, you can't deny it is kind of a side game. Kinda, like not really, but also basically. It's very short. It utilizes a lot of mechanics from Black Flag. It's not a very deep open world to explore. It's kind of a very narrowly focused game. And I think going back and re-exploring the idea of the Templars through their philosophy, how they approach the assassins, how they see the assassins, the way the gameplay would reflect that philosophy and what life is like as a Templar as opposed to an assassin. I think that could be something really, really cool for Ubisoft to do. And I want to discuss some of the ideas that I had as I sort of brainstormed this today. What could we see from a good Templar game and how it would approach the Assassin-Templar conflict through not just narrative, but also through gameplay. Now, without further ado, remember, if you do enjoy today's video, don't forget to leave it a big old like. If you enjoy content like this, you want more like it, be sure to check out that button underneath the video. It used to be red. It still says subscribe. I also got to thank my channel members. You guys help make these videos possible. Last but not least, I also want to briefly talk about my Substack. If you want to engage with me further outside of videos, I do write a Substack article once a week. It is completely free to join and subscribe, but it's a great way to read about things, whether it is more gaming stuff that doesn't make it to the channel, whether it's YouTube content and how I sort of approach the platform, posting videos, how the algorithm works, or it could just be random things, whether it's history. I talked about leather boots in my last article. So, you know, it could be anything random sometimes. So be sure to check that out with the link down below. Anyway, let's jump right into the video. One last thing, I am doing a giveaway for Skull and Bones. I have 2 codes available on PC, so be sure to comment your favorite pirate phrase down below to enter, and I will announce the winners early next week from when this video posts. It'll either be on a community post or through my next video. So if you are trying to enter this contest, then make sure you subscribe as well, just so you can stay informed and I don't announce your name and you completely miss out on a free game. That would suck. Anyway, let's get right into this Templar game. So first things first, when it comes to Assassin's Creed as a franchise, or I guess in this case it would kind of be Templar's Creed, the setting is the thing most people want to look at. What kind of setting is it going to be? And if you're doing a Templar game, I think one of the easiest ones to do is, of course, the founding of the Knights Templar in real life, or when they went public if you're going by Assassin's Creed lore, which would have been around 1119 AD. Now, this is intriguing for a couple of reasons, and not just historically, where it's set, being in the Crusades, and that very classic Templar iconography that you would be able to have in the game, but also from a lore perspective, it's a very interesting point in time because you're a couple hundred years after Alfred lets Eivor destroy the Order of Ancients in England, and then he refounds his own order as the Poor Fellow Knights of Christ, or the Knights Templar. Now, for a couple hundred years, they would have stayed secretive, but in 1119, they would go public. Now, fast forward to the setting of Assassin's Creed 1, and we see a deeply twisted form of the Templar Order, far removed from what Alfred would have intended in 874 AD, all the way back in England. And that's why this setting of 1119 in the Crusades would be interesting, because much like the Assassins in Assassin's Creed Mirage, sort of moving into their Assassin's Creed 1 starting position by building Alamut Castle and then later Masyaf, and starting to go a bit more public with how they do things, we could see the Templars moving along the same lines. This order was founded by Hugh de Pine, but we don't actually necessarily have to play as him. We could of course play as a fictional Templar who's simply along for the ride, and I think that could be a really interesting storyline to set up along with the setting. Kind of follow the intentions of the leader versus what the order was intended to be. I think this could make for an excellent narrative that explores the philosophy of the Templars and how they sort of descend into the madness that they descended to by the time we get to Assassin's Creed 1, but also be able to look at their conflict with the Assassins. Now, speaking of the conflict with the Assassins, let's talk about the gameplay. What would the gameplay actually look like in a game like this? And I think if you like the RPG games, I think a game somewhat like an Origins would be excellent for this type of game, because you would have this large open world to go and explore. And what the Templars were doing at this point in time was being able to help keep safe travelers on the road. So maybe that is a gameplay scenario that you can find yourself in, or maybe that's part of the storyline is your character someone who helps travelers along the road, someone who is there to maintain order as the Templars want in order to preserve the peace. It plays both into the philosophy of the Templars while also being an interesting gameplay mechanic, putting you in combat scenarios. Another thing that the Templars were known for in this time period is they were one of the first people to utilize modern banking with notes and being able to store money and treasures in places. This is the reason that they became so powerful in real life. So I think having a strong economy system as a part of this, maybe combining the caravan defense, maybe something like in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood with the ability to send your assassins places. Maybe you have caravans almost like assassin apprentices that you could train. Maybe with those caravans you can invest in them and make them stronger and able to go further and collect these rare treasures from around the world. Maybe that could be something as well, but I definitely think a strong economy type of mechanic should be a part of a Templar game. After all, it is core to how they're able to gain power and influence over the world, and exploring that further could be really, really awesome. Even Rogue did have this type of mechanic. Granted, it was closer to what was in Black Flag, but you could almost trace that all the way back to what was in Brotherhood, how you could send assassin apprentices places, you could send your fleet places. So bringing that back, I think, could be really interesting, especially, again, when you are dealing with the Knights Templar. Now, one thing that has been in the franchise before that I think would be absolutely excellent in a Templar game is a murder mystery system. In Assassin's Creed Unity, the murder mysteries are one of my absolute favorite parts of that game. Unfortunately, a lot of people miss them because you have to go to one very specific place on the map to actually unlock all of them. Otherwise, they will not trigger at all, which I think is a huge missed opportunity. But when you do unlock them, they are some of the best content in the entire franchise. It doesn't hold your hand. You have to go and not only investigate the clues, but you also have to talk to witnesses or other people around the crime. And you'll take your notes as you go along and then make your accusation at the very end. And it can be very, very satisfying to get the correct person accused on the very first try. And they get more complicated as you go, with different players playing along and kind of giving conflicting ideas of what happened at the time, different perspectives of what motivations were and whatnot. It can get very, very fun. And I think making that a part of a Templar game where you are investigating the assassins, trying to uncover the assassins, I think that could be an excellent feature in a game like that. Now, I also want to dive a bit into what the narrative should focus on, because I think a problem a lot of people have with Assassin's Creed Rogue is how the narrative doesn't really portray the philosophical conflict between the assassins and Templars all that well. It's essentially the assassins become Templars and the Templars become assassins. Now, is it super ultra deep and it's actually that, you are who you're fighting or something? I don't know. I don't think it's all that deep. After all, it was just a side game. But in this game, I would love to see the exploration of the conflict of ideas, peace through freedom or peace through order. And I think if you can explore that in a narrative sense, I think you have a really excellent narrative on your hands, combined with quality gameplay and a quality setting that can make for an excellent game where we get to focus on the Templars and what they believe and how they go about things, what justifies the reason for their order existing. They can't just be twirly mustache evil people all the time. They have to have complexity and nuance in this world. Otherwise, people will just stop joining them. Not everyone is just outright evil all the time, after all. So anyway, those are my ideas for a Templar game in the Assassin's Creed franchise. Let me know your ideas down below. What kind of settings would you like to see? What kind of historical figures would you like to see? Is there certain gameplay mechanics or narrative beats that you would love to see in a Templar game? Let me know down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.